Hello everybody and good afternoon. Thank you very much for attending this Community Environment Fund webinar and my name is Tracy Gordon. I work in the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority and this year are part of the team running the second Community Environment Fund, which we're absolutely delighted to have announced last week, and we have 6 weeks to apply for the grants. So this session is just to tell you a little bit about the Community Environment Fund, introduce you to various members of the team, and what we want you to focus on is asking your questions. So there's a question and answer section on the system. Please feel at any time you can type in any questions that occur to you, and at the end of our presentations we'll try and answer as many of them as possible. We were hoping to have Steve Rotherham, our Metro Mayor, here today because he's exceptionally committed to enabling local people to have an impact on their environment, which is what this fund is all about. But unfortunately he couldn't make it, but he is going to take an active participation in ensuring that we get the right level of applications in and that we support as many of those applications as possible through the fund, and will work with us throughout the lifetime of this the second Community Environment Fund. So if I could just have my second slide, please. And I'll just pop over the agenda so that everybody's aware of what's happening. This is your welcome. We're going to move into some presentations and introduce various members of the team that are working with us. I'm really delighted to have Barry and Andrew here from a project that was successful last year, and want them to share their experiences of going through applying for the funding, being successful and delivering their project, which was really inspirational. And then we'll finish with questions and hopefully some answers at the end. You'll see that Lewis, who's one of our presenters later on, has popped into the chat already that we have a Community Environment Fund email address. If there's anything you want a response to, or anything you don't get around to asking today and you don't want to ask in front of anybody else, then please feel free to email us at cef@liverpoolcityregion-ca.gov.uk, and we publish frequently asked questions and updating them on our website on a regular basis. So I think without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Lewis to tell you about this year's Community Environment Fund. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tracy. Thank you for that introduction. So yeah, just to reiterate, I'm Lewis. I'm a junior project manager at the Combined Authority. I've been here a couple of months now, and within a couple of days, Tracy had me starting on this project and really enjoyed it so far. It's been great. It's a really good thing, and just glad to get this webinar and talk a bit more about what we're doing. So the Community Environment Fund was launched last year to promote environmental awareness and collaboration at a community level. So that was in light of the Combined Authority's Climate Emergency Declaration and its target for a net zero carbon region, city region by 2040. So by doing all these small little projects, you know, they add up to a lot and really can do our bit for the environment, which is fantastic. So through the Combined Authority setting up this fund, over 58 community environment projects were supported across the Liverpool City region. I think the number in the end was about 58, so that's just fantastic. And we're just trying to follow the success of that, really. So as the project was such a huge hit, further £500,000 has been allocated for this financial year. So the process has been changed and refined slightly based on feedback from the first wave. So we've had some really good feedback from the team working on it last year and applicants as well. So we put that into practice and hopefully we'll be even better this year. And can we have the next slide, please? So outcomes from last year, so yes, 58 projects were supported, many more applied for CF funding. We would have loved to give out even more money, but fortunately the budget's the budget and we're happy to support that many. So success of the pilot resulted in the second year funding, and as I said before, lessons learned reflected changes made to this year's fund to try and improve it even more. Next slide, please. So the funding stream, so if you've applied last year, you will notice a little bit of a difference. So for stream 1 will be for projects between £1,000 to £5,000, and stream 2 will be for projects between £5,001 and £30,000. So if you apply, use the same application form. So it's trying to make the process simple, but you will be, depending on how much you require, you'll be put into stream 1 or 2. And one organisation can apply for up to 2 grants to combined total of £40,000. Can I have the next slide, please? So last Monday, the 28th of March, the 6-week window for bids opened. That has been increased slightly from last year, which was 4 weeks, to give you time to get those great applications in. And then, so that means that on 9 AM on Monday, the 9th of May, the 6-week window for bids will close, and we will start looking through those applications, start to score them and see who's successful and who's not. So then we hope for early July to all bidders, whether you've been successful or not, to be notified if you've received the money or not. And then by August, we aim to have the grant funding agreement set out to successful bidders and be signed and returned. And then for 1st of December, we would like all projects to begin before this date. That's the 1st of December this year. And then we'd like all projects to be completed by the 1st of May 2023. So they're the timescales for this year. This is all on our website. If you go to our website, and I'll post a link in the chat in a second, it's all on there, and we've got FAQs and guidance where this goes into really big detail. So don't worry about taking pictures of this, writing this down really quickly. So that's it from me. So I'll pass on to Aidan now, another member of our team, who's going to talk a bit about application tips. Over to you, Aidan.
Yeah, thank you, Lewis. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm Aidan Semple. I'm a housing graduate at the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority. So I've been here for nearly 6 months now, and whilst I've worked on all things housing, I am helping on this year's Community Environment Fund, which I'm very excited about. So just a quick one, based on what we saw in last year's fund, we do have some quick fire tips to help you with your applications this year. So first and foremost, it does have to have like a clear narrative and about community engagement and a focus and understanding on how your project can impact certain areas in the city region and the people living in those areas. Another one, again, it needs to have a clear, not just a narrative on community engagement, but a narrative on environment. So in your applications, definitely put something down on how you're going to measure your benefits. So that could be the amount of carbon that's going to be reduced because of your project. It could be the meters squared of flowers planted. It might be the number of students you're helping out, or the learning hours those students will get from a possible scheme. Again, in your application form, when you're applying for a certain amount of funding, you should have a breakdown and a detail about the amount of money that you've applied for, but also the breakdown of how that money would be spent. So if you applied for X amount of pounds, how is that money going to be allocated to make sure your scheme is a success? And that sort of builds into the next point, which is how to use this information to justify that Community Environment Fund funding takes your project to another level. So you might have a brilliant project that's doing great things in the community, but in your application form, make clear, how is this funding going to take your application, take your scheme and project to the next level and bring even extra benefits to the people living in your communities? And again, just finally to tie that all off, everything should hopefully be as clear as it can be in the application form, but make sure all boxes are filled in, everything's provided to a sort of a necessary standard. And if you cover all of those tips above, hopefully you should be successful and should bring some more benefits to your communities. So thank you for that. I'm now going to hand over to Alex, who's going to go through some maybe things to avoid in your applications.
Thanks for that, Aidan. I'm Alex McWilliam, and I'm a housing graduate at the CA as well. I've been here for about 4 months, and I'm going to talk through what not to do on your application form. So please don't submit a project that isn't ready to dig, and please don't submit a project without landover approval in place. Your application is going to be very unlikely to be successful at this point if these aren't in place. And then also, please don't submit a project with start dates after the required start date, or those that do not match across the application process, because at this stage, it'll become quite clear to us that your project isn't quite right or ready for the funds this year. Please don't focus on other projects you have done or future projects. Only include information in your application about the project which would receive the fund and what the fund would enable. And please don't include wider organisational activity in the application, and instead provide information specific to the project being applied for. So, for example, if there was a question in the application about social value or equality, don't talk about what the wider organisation is doing or what other projects are doing, and please only provide information specific to the project in these terms. So that's all from me. I'm now going to hand over to Anya Ndukwe from acronym Community Empowerment, and Barry the Bee Whisperer from Merseyside Bees and Honeycomb Limited, for them to talk about their previous experience with the fund.
Hi everybody, thank you for the invite and for having the opportunity to share our positive experience with the environmental fund that we received last year. What I can say is it was empowering, innovative, exciting, and most importantly, it really did help our community to protect the environment, to protect the bees, to get people to fall in love with nature. And how did we go about this? We were signposted to the environmental pot of support. And based on the fact that Barry has over 40 years of hands-on beekeeping experience, and we came together because although we were doing beekeeping with the community, it was at a small level, and we wanted to raise the profile. And in a way, we'd fallen in fashion because this is something that we'd been doing for a long time before people were climate change aware. And so we wanted to make Toxteth a beacon community. And the projects included rooftop beekeeping, as well as being based at the community centre. We also, at the Caribbean Centre, which has changed its name slightly. We also had lots of school children and schools participating. And we had people coming from London and Birmingham to watch and share the good practice and the methods that Barry was using in terms of working with the bees, the bee husbandry, and just the way in which, because every beekeeper has their USP or their ways in which they look after and nurture the beehives. For me, it was a wonderful learning experience because we were able to bring from 0 to 100, any age. There was no barriers. And so often, as you know, most people are scared of these beautiful, tiny, creatures, magical creatures of nature. And I couldn't understand why, the average person had so much fear. And to break down that barrier is what we were able to do. And so we presented a variety of different things. So from designing our workshops to make sure that it was always inclusive and to have lots of social value. What was our community going to glean out of it at the end? Would it be sustainable? Would we be able to get people to overcome their fears? So there was lots of things we wanted to engage the community, and the community was wide. We had all various diversities, people from various communities came together. The bees were a glue, and they actually gave life really to the youngsters. We had 7 to 11-year-olds. Over the course of summer, went from not knowing nothing about bees to being completely able to actually teach and pass on that learning. 10-year-olds who now can manage a beehive. So we were able to eradicate the fear. Parents were then encouraged to also get involved, parents and grandparents. And so that it became holistic. It was really, really beautiful. And even now, I don't think Barry can walk without people shouting, "Barry, when's the next bee thing happening?" There is a real excitement, a real buzz, pardon the pun. And we're hoping that that energy translates this year and continuously. So if you are doing something that you think is piecemeal or a hobby, don't take it for, make the most of it, put it out there, because you'd be surprised that you can share that same love for nature and love for caring for the environment with us and grow a movement. From the beekeeping, we also had, is it Tinature? Which is looking at plants, trees, leaves, and the benefits that you can get from, for example, an oak tree. So it just leads on to so much from the bee project. There is so much others, things that spiraled out of that. So yes, I would encourage listeners to really be innovative, think outside the box. And when it comes to the environment, there's always something there for someone. I'm just going to let Barry talk about the bees as well now. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the bees is in the endangered species list. And we all have to work to see if we can take the bees from out of that endangered species list and to put it on the top list. And the reason why, if the bees die, we die. More than 60% of the food that we eat have to be pollinated. And if they don't pollinate it, we don't get any food. And the bees is the best pollinator out of all the insects. And the reason why, when the bees going to pollinate, they go to pear to pear to pear. That is pollination. Other pollinator go from pear, plum to apple. That is not the right pollinator. So the honeybees is the best pollinator, and we have to work to take the bees from out of that endangered species list and put the bees on the top list. And whenever time I'm talking about bees, I always include plants, because plants, we should live together with plants as near as possible. Plants is, we get more than 80% of the food that the bees get is from plants, and we have to plant a lot of things that bees can get food, to get pollen, to get nectar. Pollen is the only cure we have for hay fever. Everything the bees possess is medicine. Even the sting from the bees is good for arthritis, rheumatism pain, and the British Beekeepers Association are doing a project now that it might help Alzheimer's disease. So even the sting from the bees is medicine. Everything the bees produce is medicine, and we have to try to teach the next generation how to take care of bees. We have to pass the baton on to them, that when we leave this earth, the baton will still carry on by the young generation. And that's what I am here to do, to help the bees and do what I can to teach everybody, because the more people know about bees, is the more we will have bees, and the more bees we have, the bees will come out of the endangered species list. So we all have to come together and help the bees, and the bees will help us, and that's what we have to do. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah.
Right, so just to recap on that, so that, I mean, what we want, what we did achieve, and what I would say to anybody thinking about applying, you're not working in solitude. As Barry's just explained, the bees are the bees work in tandem with plants and with nature and with people, and we are one huge circle of life. And so any environmental project that someone is thinking about doing, that is part of that circle. And we can all work together collectively and enhance and, you know, enhance what we are doing together. And I think this can grow into something really big, much bigger than we're even imagining. I think COVID as well took our minds off climate change, and luckily we were able to contribute via a video to the COP conference. So that was one of the other outputs from receiving the funding. We were also able to get lots and lots of publicity and widen that impact, widen the interest, and the children have had lifelong impressions, positive impressions about nature, and they were able to put their voice to that and actually, you know, present that on the COP conference, which I thought was a great milestone of achievement, why we need to protect our planet. So it's just a positive, fantastic opportunity that is being offered by the combined authority, and I would encourage anybody and everybody to think environmental. There is something that we can all do, and yeah, so thanks again, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'll just hand back to Tracy now. Brilliant.
Thank you. That was really inspirational and a fantastic project that we were absolutely delighted to support last year. And I know that the mayor went out to see you and loved watching that video of him getting suited up and working with you and the children on that project. So I hope you've been inspired by that and will spread the message that, you know, that's the type of thing that we're interested in. We do in our guidance give a wide range of topics that we're very happy to look at to fund on this, and anything that has a positive impact on the environment is eligible. Almost anything, I should say, is eligible for this fund. So we published a few questions, and we thought we'd get to the question and answer session of this. So the first one I have here is, how many applications did we have last year, although we funded 58? And Lewis is going to give us an answer to this first question. Thanks, Lewis.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. So I believe we had over 150 applications last year. So my rubbish maths works out that to be, we funded about a third. So we have a scoring system that we use, just to reiterate that every application we receive is marked by a human. There's nothing that goes through a machine or computer algorithm like that. We score things. We have moderation sessions as well for borderline cases, so we try to be as fair as possible and give as many people a chance as possible. We really want you all to get your money if you've put a good application in. So yeah, I've waffled a bit there. Over 150. Sorry, back to you, Tracy.
Hi, thanks. Bear with us with our technology. So the second question, I think that Alex is going to answer. So this is about how can you get, how can you apply for 40,000 when the grants are up to 5,000 or up to 30,000. So Alex, I'll let you explain that maths for us all. Thanks.
Thanks, Tracy. So one organisation can apply for up to 2 grants for a combined total of £40,000. So essentially, it doesn't matter whether you apply for one from Stream 1 and another one from Stream 2, or 2 from Stream 2. Absolute maximum will be £40,000. So that would really only apply to 2 from Stream 2. If you're applying for 1 from Stream 1, which the maximum is 5,000, and another one from Stream 2, which the maximum is 30,000, then obviously that will only add up to 3,500. So the absolute maximum is 40,000, which really is 2 streams, both from Stream 2. Right, thank you. I hope that is clear. It's a lot of 1s and 2s there, but I'll pass back to Tracy.
I think I'm live. I'm happy to answer the next question. Yeah, we will publish these slides. We'll put them on the website. I'll put a link to the website if you scroll up a little bit on the Q&A. We will also put a recording of this webinar as well, so those will be updated for you. And as well, if you're interested in applying, or just like signpost you to the guidance on the website. The guidance is a really big document. Lots of questions you might have to be answered in there. The nitty-gritty is in there, and like I say, if anything's not in there, feel free to email us. We've got the email address, so I'll post that again. I think that's on the screen now. So, so yeah, if you have a look on there, that'll answer everything, answer any questions as well you have. So I'll pass back to Tracy.
Right, well, I'm afraid that my technology has failed me and I can't see any of the questions. So I'm not sure if the other guys are publishing any of the questions and answers, or any of the questions at least. Do we have any more questions in the queue, guys? Please bear with us while we have this slight technological issue. We've practiced earlier on today and my Q&A button kept failing. So yes, we should publish all of them. And then I think I'll hand back to Lewis so that he can read them out and see who can answer them. If you just bear with us a minute. Lewis.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, so I can see the questions, so I think I'll go through them all. So next question we've got is, can you apply something that isn't place-based? For example, if you don't have landowner permission, can you instead do an education programme in the community? Yeah, that's absolutely fine. The note about the landowner position is only permission is only for projects that are place-based. So if you, for example, like you say, an educational programme, that's absolutely fine. Just for the application form, we'll ask for a postcode. Just based on deprivation levels, things like that. If you just put your office or headquarters or anything in, that should be fine. Next question, can we ask for funding for a project manager's salary? We have secured match funding for their manager's salary, so can we include that as match funding? Absolutely. We're happy to pay for staff costs. If you are coming from a local authority, that is slightly different. If you're applying on behalf of a local authority, all that information is in the guidance. I won't go into that now, but 99% of the time, yes, we're happy to fund that. And if you have got match funding, that is a bonus. And there's a question about it in the application more. Make sure you say yes and give us the details, because that makes us more willing to give you the money if it's match fund. So there's some match funding available. Next question. So can an organisation based outside of Liverpool but working in Liverpool apply? I think the answer to that is yes. I think if your project is taking place within the Liverpool City region, that's absolutely fine. It's a city region project, so that's fine. So I'm just reading these as I go now. So along with Aintree Hospital, McGull and Orton Rotary are hoping to regenerate a garden within the grounds of the hospital. This will benefit the prosthetics department and the elderly whose wards border the site. Would it be possible to apply to the fund of St Vincent's Nature? Yes, absolutely. Sounds like a fantastic project. That's definitely within the scope of the project, the Community Environment Fund. So we'd be happy to fund those depending on your application, things like that. Don't take that as a yes, no. But that sort of project is absolutely fine. Brilliant presentation work by Barry. Yeah, here, agree. Just a question about seasons. If the season of delivery does not include summer months, there can be less charting of change in terms of blooming and pollinators. We can prepare the ground and sow wildflower seeds, but we won't be able to celebrate them with the communities and within the timescale of the project. Has this been considered? We have considered the time frame. We'd love to give you years and years to do these projects, for really long term, but unfortunately that's not always possible. So, but we can revisit this and talk to this as a team if it turns out to be an issue with lots of people. I understand that's not particularly what you want to hear, but we'll have a little look at that at the team. But at the moment, those are the dates. So, is it possible to share the contact details of those successful applicants last year? I don't think so. All sort of rules of GDPR a little bit hesitant to just give out contact details, but if you send us an email at the email we've provided, we might be able to send some things over, some examples, things like that. But contact details, not sure about, but we'll try our best to give you some examples. Would cost for LED lighting for community spaces be eligible? I saw that solar panels or not. So I assume if you're doing a garden, something like that, and you want to have a bit of lighting, that should be fine, I think. But we'll check back. If it's not in the guidance, that's fine. I think we've put no solar panels because they even though they're great for the environment, solar energy is fantastic. They can generate income, which is something that with our rules is a bit of a question mark. So we just decided to not put that in. If you're commissioning for a service, how many quotes do you have to get, please? Do these need to be done before or after applying? It's best to get the quotes get the quotes done before applying, because we will ask for these quotations. We'd probably say about 3 would probably be a good number. I guess if you're doing your front room up, you're doing your kitchen up, you probably get a couple of 3 quotes, so probably the same is fine. And another note on the quotations as well, we're not always necessarily after the cheapest quote. If you have a quotation from somebody who's in the city region, a firm that's in the city region, and it's slightly higher than someone who's outside the city region, we'd prefer to go with them, just because it's city region money and a project as well. So just a note on that. So 2 or 3 is probably a good amount, just more than 1, I'd say. Just a note to the guys with me, could you publish some more? I know we've got some new questions and some are unpublished, so if you could publish some of those, that'd be great, so I can make my way through them. Next question is, would you consider another project covering a similar theme successful bids last year? So if you have applied last year and you'd like to apply again, that's great, as long as you're not doing the same thing. But if you're asking that someone got money for something last year, we'd like to do the same thing, then as long as you're not the same organisation, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, there's only so many projects you can do, I guess. It says in the guidance that you can apply up to 50k into any 2 applications, not 40. Yes, good spot. That's probably a typo. We'll fix that and get that updated. Apologies about that. Would you consider application from housing association on behalf of our community centres and community groups? Yes, I suppose we would consider a housing association. I can see Tracy's nodding in the background, so yes, that's absolutely fine. It's businesses, even if you're an SME or an individuals, we don't accept from. So housing association, absolutely fine. And in terms of monitoring and evaluation, what is the process and when will this be required? I'm considering a food grain project, which one of the outcomes, harvest and impacts may not seem to outside the project period. Will sufficient time be allowed for reporting these impacts? Yes. What I didn't include on the in the slides in the timescale slides is that even though we'd like the project to be finished by that time, we can do reporting quite a while afterwards as well. So I'm just going to pass. Sorry, I see a message in our chat. Yep, I'll pass on to Aidan. Give me a chance to have a drink, and Aidan can take over from me. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lewis. Well answered with quite a lot of them. Where are we up to now? Is it? We've just done that one, haven't we? In terms of monitoring and evaluation, just done that. The guidance says the fund will support accessible green spaces, habitats and biodiversity. Would this include the provision of paths, seating and other infrastructure to improve access within public green spaces and natural sites that are publicly accessible? I'd assume so. I think Tracy might be able to answer this better, but in terms of obviously landowner permission, that would be the sort of main challenge. But Tracy, do you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, thanks very much, Aidan, and an amazing series of questions for answers from Lewis as well. Thanks very much. So definitely the whole infrastructure to make public and green spaces accessible would absolutely be eligible, just as long as, you know, the usual a couple of quotes and showing that it's good value for money would be possible. So yeah, we'd encourage that, and definitely eligible. So yeah, thanks. I'll hand back to Aidan, who I think's maybe taken over asking questions to give Lewis a breather while he gets a glass of water.
Yeah, I think it was a well-earned glass of water from Lewis. Next one, who are the adjudicators for the applications? So last year, again, I didn't work on the last one, I hadn't started, but I believe there was a whole group of people at the Combined Authority with different backgrounds. People work within the environmental teams, people in housing, people doing anything in the community place-based stuff. The adjudicators, there was a whole group of them, and the same will be the case this time round. So the application sort of time frame will close in early May, and there will be a few days in mid-May where there will be a whole team of people at the Combined Authority who will go through and do the point scoring system for all your applications. They'll all be moderated, so it's fair across the board. I think Tracy would like to add to that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, a good question. I was one of the scorers last year, so used to the scoring system. But I do feel we should have mentioned, and an oversight on my part, we should have mentioned before the Climate Partnership, which is a group of 40 organisations that we work very closely with, that is one of the groups that looks to support the Combined Authority and the Metro Mayor in our environmental ambitions. So that group is chaired by Gideon Benthoven, and 4 people from there who were chosen by the partnership will also be involved in the moderation of these projects, and Gideon will be involved in ensuring that the final decisions are fair and equitable. So it'll be done mainly internally by our existing staff. It'll be moderated, it'll be approved at a director level, and we will include our climate partnership partners in that decision making, so that it's a robust but a fair process. Thanks very much, and back to Aidan.
Thanks, Tracy. Next question, if your match is not confirmed, can that still be written into the bid? I assume that's match funding. Yes, just keep it as up to date as you can. Again, even if it's not completely oven ready, if your scheme and project in it is in a good place to accept funding, then I think that's absolutely fine. Just give us as much of an update and as much information and detail as you can and where you're up to. I'll do one more question before I hand over to Alex. Not that we've got too many to go. Have you got people with good ideas looking for partners? I don't believe we've had any applications in just yet. And obviously to do with freedom of just sharing each other's data, I think the best thing to do there would be, if you are looking for partners and looking for other people who are interested in this fund where maybe you could team up, if you could get in contact with us, if you could send an email to the email address on the screen, just sort of spelling out what you're looking for. I'm sure if there's someone else in the same position, we can match you up. So yeah, if you want more detail on that and you're looking for partners, just get in touch with us and we can see if we can, if you know, match you up and see if you can get a more joined up bid together with someone else. Sorry, I waffled a little bit there. I'll hand over to Alex now to read out some more of the questions.
Right, thanks, Aidan. So the next question is, I might be leading on a bid in partnership with Wirral Council. Would they count as a community partner? And I'm not too sure of the answer to that. Tracy wants to jump in.
Hello, so we have made allowances where if as a community group you don't feel that you've got the experience to run a project on your own, you can absolutely partner with one of the local authorities, a parish council or any other formal organisation. We've restricted organisations to 2 bids each, but where you're partnering with a local authority or any other body like that, it won't count towards their 2 total numbers. So that's absolutely fine. We love that kind of collaboration and partnership, and if it gives you more confidence and certainty of delivery, then we'd be delighted to see that. And I'll hand back to Alex to see if you've got any more questions.
Right, thanks, Tracy. And so the next question is, if you were doing a project that is limited to just the Wirral, but not to a specific place on the Wirral, does that count as place-based or not? And I think probably, yeah, I guess so, yeah. I hope that answers your question. Oh no, Lewis is gonna jump in and save me here. Go on. Thank you, Lewis.
Cheers. So yeah, I would say it depends on the project really. If you're planting flower beds all over the world, that's a place-based project. If you if you're doing a sort of an educational sort of awareness sort of based thing just on the world, then that's not place-based. Appreciate, you know, not every person who applies for the fund is going to be working all over the city region. So I would say it depends on your project. I'll pass back to Tracy.
Right, thanks for that, Lewis. So the next question is, we are also applying for a green space project at Aintree Hospital and other green spaces at Liverpool. Oh, that's just communication between 2 people, sorry. So the next question is, we are interested in dementia-friendly green spaces. Would this be suitable for the bid? That certainly sounds like something that would be suitable, as long as all the other, you know, criteria is met. You know, make your application and just follow the tips and the do's and don'ts that we've had. But that certainly is something that we would love to work on. And then the next question is, could you give us a list of successful bids from last year so we can see what they have done with your money? It's, you know, like the previous answers about, you know, data protection and stuff like that. I'm not sure if we could give literally, you know, a list of things and what the money's been done for, but I'm sure there is information about last year's funds and what was approved, and you'll probably be able to see that there. But I don't think we could actually share those type of details. So the next question is, hi, we're developing a tech product that will help LCRs, SMEs to be more environmentally responsible. Would this be a suitable project? And Tracy's going to answer this one.
Hi, well, it sounds very interesting, and I just have some concerns about it. So this fund is solely for non-profit making groups, and if that was going to make a profit, then I don't think we would be able to support that. If it was something where you were working with SMEs and giving them something for free that would help them reduce their environmental footprint or their carbon footprint or anything like that, then I would, and you're a not-for-profit organisation, then I would say that is eligible. So there's a little bit of a shade there. If again you'd like to email us a little bit more of that detail before you fill in a form at the email address that we've shown and is in the chat, then I think we could have a conversation and give you a more detailed answer than that, just to make sure that you are definitely eligible before you spend time filling in the application. So I hope that's an adequate answer. It sounds very interesting, and if we didn't fund it through this, we might look at funding it through something else. So thank you very much, and I don't know, Alex, are there more questions? And hand you back.
Right, so the final question that has come through is just a follow-up about the fund being public money, and so it should be public knowledge to see how it's been spent. I think, you know, Tracy's going to jump in on this.
So I'd need to check last year, but I do believe that we published every grant that we got, because you are quite right, we are responsible for public funding. I think it went to the Combined Authority, of which all the papers are published and anybody can watch for a final approval. Now, I wasn't involved at that point last year, but if it's not, it will be. If somebody really wants to see it, then we'll absolutely look for that list, check with our data protection officer, and make sure that we have published as much information as we can about what grants were given and what organisations got them. I will say there was a wealth of projects last year. We looked at edible walls, school gardens, vegetable growing things. We looked at carbon literacy programs, wildflower planting, seats to make things more accessible, new pathways, signboards, interpretation materials, leaflets, about all sorts of things. So it was a, you know, whole range of projects, and we'd rather consider things that are eligible, and a wide range of things, as long as you make some environmental improvements. And we did street trees and local community trees and all sorts of things that were the ones I read about. So there was a host of different applications against a lot of different areas, a lot of volunteering hours, a lot of different hard to reach people that were supported more to get out into our environment. And so we'll look at that, kind of trying to make sure that the information is on our website in a format that is publicly accessible, and we'll check up on what was published last year. But certainly as part of our openness and transparency, we'd be very happy to make that information available. And so check our website and we'll update it as soon as possible, and hopefully give some more ideas to those of you out there. But we're looking for your ideas and your new ideas, and looking forward to that. Now, I think Alex maybe said that was the last question. No, with more questions, and I don't know, I think we'll pass back to Lewis to start asking them again. Thanks, Lewis.
Thanks, Tracy. So the next question I've got is, can we seek funds for environmental awareness for Liverpool NHS staff? I would say yes. I'd say that sounds like a great idea, great project. We've done things like that in last year's fund, and that sounds great. There's lots of things you can put in your application about this, so that sounds great. Next question is, do you fund professional fees and design costs of low carbon heating system? Again, that's one that I don't want to say yes or no to right now. If you send us an email, again, tell us a bit more about your bid before you do a big application form. That's something we'd be happy to have a look at and answer. Next thing, thank you so much for your answers. No problem. That's what we're here for. Could you say more about weighting and priorities for St Helens, Knowsley and Holton? So yes, I believe last year we got very few applications in from those boroughs. So we would like to be more inclusive, and we are part of the whole city region. So we are putting more weighting into those areas. So the way we work, we have a scoring system. Each person, when they score, will go through, and I believe there's an extra weighting given to those areas. I don't believe the specific weighting has been sort of decided yet, but that's not to say you'll automatically get in if you're from those areas, and vice versa. If you're not from those areas, you won't get any money because we're giving it all to those areas. So so there is a slight weighting. It is to be confirmed, but that does exist. And the last question I've got is the limit for one big grant 30,000 or 40,000? So that's 30. So apologies for the confusion, just so reiterate. So if you're just doing one application, one grant, that's £30,000. But if you are from an organisation and you'd like to do two, that's up to 40 combined. So if you're doing applying for one of 20 and 20, or 30 and 10, or 30 and 5, that's the total. And I believe we've got another question. The last one, I think, is, can we work with partners outside of Liverpool City region? I think that sounds fine. I think as long as your project is taking place within the city region. Again, as I said about the quotations, we prefer to work with local suppliers, but if you need some building work done and you can't find a local supplier to do it for a decent price, then yes, obviously you will work outside of the city region. The same goes with partners as well. As long as the fund is taking place within the city region, then that's fine by us. So I believe that's the last of the questions. I will pass back to Tracy in a second, but I would say I will post the email again and our website for you to have a look through. I'd say if you've got another question after this, look through our guidance, have a good look through that. Our FAQs as well. If it's still not answered, then email us. So back to Tracy. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for your participation today and some very interesting questions. I'd just like to say a final thank you to our guests, Barry and Andrew, for coming along today. And I hope you found that interesting. We're really looking forward to working with you, having your applications, and having another successful community environment fund. So as Lewis said, any further questions, please do email us. Look out for the updates on our website, and we look forward to your successful bids coming into us by the 9th of May. So thank you all very much. Have a lovely evening and take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Yeah. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.